What's going on, everyone? It's this is a stream that I'm going to be honest with you was born of two factors. All right, factor number one, I had a birthday this weekend, and in doing so, had a little getaway, and in doing that, did not did not have content ready to go out like I have normally the last I don't know month plus. Pat on my back there to go out Monday. So I figured I'd do something live since I didn't have a whole lot of time to prep. And I also, so factor number two is I have this urge to be hated. So I decided that I would do something very divisive that will probably end in me being mocked as far as my opinion goes, but I'm cool with that. Actually, kind of here for it. It may turn out to be a lively conversation. So what we're going to be doing here, in case you can't tell, is we are going to be ranking horror franchises. And when I say that, I want to make it clear that I'm not ranking just the original film, because you'll see the icons here typically of the logo of whatever the original film was in the franchise. That's not the case. Each individual franchise per piece here. So we're going to be taking into account pretty much everything within the film franchise. So, films like Halloween could be hurt by, films like Halloween Resurrection, for example. So I think it makes it a little bit more interesting. Because I think otherwise, especially people who have watched my channel for any time already know pretty much quite a lot of these picks, how they would go. So I think that's a good way to switch them up. So let's see who's here. Who's joining me early on here. I have to shout these folks out because I don't stream a lot on this channel. So you all are the best. So we got Frank, we got Brick, Reaper. Who else is here? Billy, for some fucking reason. The Shape. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Like I said, I don't stream a lot on this channel. So thank you for showing up and showing up early. Now, Hooves is here too. What's up, man? Welcome everyone. Like I said, pile in. Who's your buddies here? Thank you. Just lurking. All right. I can appreciate that. So like I said, it'll probably get a little bit more lively here in the chat as this progresses. I would imagine that I'm going to have some takes that people are going to think are dog shit, but like I said, I'm here for it. Mimi, thank you for joining us early. All right, so I really don't see any reason to wait any longer. Like I said, it's quite a list anyway. So I just want to say I didn't make this personally. I did not make this tier. I did a search and I looked for the list that seemed to be the most complete. No, Billy, I'm going to direct you the hell out of my chat with that fuck shit. I'm not giving you my Steam name. That's not happening, Captain. All right, so let's dig in here because we all know how the typical tier list works here. You got S and so on. I do want to make sure everyone sees this though, and that is the don't know, don't remember. Because as much of a horror aficionado as I claim to be, there are some franchises here that I'm not familiar with enough to give an honest answer to. So yeah, that's definitely going to be utilized. So yeah, as you can see, quite a list. Pretty much anything and everything one could think of. I noticed a couple of things missing that I would have put in here, in especially in place of some of the ones that they chose here. But like I said, this seems to be the most complete list, all things considered. Interesting picks. I mean, Jurassic Park, I guess you kind of sticks out. Which, I mean, yeah, sure, it's about dinosaurs mauling people, so why not? But yeah, that's pretty much the entire list there, just to kind of drink it in really quickly. So yeah, it's time to I think it's time to start pissing people off. That's what I think. My profile picture is not showing up. Okay, appreciate that. Let's switch to this one, and then Pull the old switcheroo back to this one. Does that work? I hope. Let me know. Drop your Steam name and Billy will buy you a game. Free games over here. I mean, he's not lying. He's not lying, but at what cost? Even though it's a free game, even though the price is free, there's still a cost, and it's your dignity, I think. Welcome in everyone, Druid Lover. I see you joining us. Appreciate it. So yeah, let's do this thing. Let's go ahead and kick it off here. Why the fuck not? So up first, starting big, The Exorcist. So like I said, A, just my opinion, obviously. B, we are taking into account every entry in the franchise. So I'm not just ranking the film The Exorcist right now. I'm taking into account Exorcist 2, which is awful. I'm taking into account Exorcist 3, which is maybe better than the original. But we're also taking into consideration those very boring prequels. And yeah, I guess up until the David Gordon Green movie, that's all, right? Unless I'm forgetting something. So other than the original and the third, this is pretty much I could not have the rest of this franchise and be perfectly fine. Oh, Frank, why are you denying the free game? Come on. It's the cost is high. It is. So like I said, other than the first one and the third one, there's really not much here. So it's really a determining factor for me is like, how good are those two? And personally, I think the first one, very good, maybe a tad overrated, but very good. And the third one, I think, is very underrated, actually. Let's see, where would I throw this entire franchise? Because, like I said, at this point, you have more pulling it down with the original sequel, the two remake or the two prequels, rather. You got more pulling it down than you do really holding it up. I think for me, as a franchise overall, I'd still give it B tier, just because I think the third one is super good. The first one is, I mean, pretty much a classic. I mean, it's kind of the horror movie in a lot of people's eyes. So I think that helps it up the list. But like I said, a lot pulling this one down. So I think B is kind of fair. Let's see here. Don't think I've seen the third. Adding to my list. Absolutely add it to your list. It is totally let's just say it's a departure in many ways. It does do something a little different, take some risk, and it's got Brad Dourif in it. So I mean that's always a win. Third is solid, first is exceptional. Yeah. I think that's a fair way to put it. Sure. So what do we got next? We have The Thing. So once again, we're taking into consideration here what was the original, The Thing from Another World. Then of course the John Carpenter The Thing, the 2011 prequel that was sold as a remake. And I'm thinking maybe there was one even before that, the first one I mentioned there. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I mean, obviously, the only thing that's really pulling this franchise is the Carpenter version. I mean, I think the older version that was actually seen on the TV in Halloween. I mean, it's a decent enough flick, you know. It not definitely not as memorable as the Carpenter film. And honestly, you know, that 2011 prequel gets a lot of shit. I think the only thing it deservedly gets shit for is using some of the CGI in place of like practical, given the Carpenter one, that this one is kind of a predecessor to, is, you know, utilized so well. It's kind of difficult. You know, I think really I'd probably land it in C tier just because I think the Carpenter version is so fucking solid. It's one of my favorite movies. Um, the original is obviously a classic in many ways. And like I said, other than the questionable use of CGI in that 2011 movie, I really didn't mind it that much. I thought it was decent enough. Let's see here. What do we have next? Okay. Okay, so here's a good one. We got Silent Night, Deadly Night. So I can't even, like I said, we have to take into consideration every entry when doing these of said franchise. I can't even name all the movies that spawned off of this. I own the first two. I really just own the second one because of, it's a meme at this point, Garbage Day. Uh, I don't think, honestly, I don't even think I've seen past the third one. I know there's at least 5 of these fucking things. So the original is kind of legendary in that it pissed off so many soccer moms. I guess now we'd call them Karens, that they protest the film, and I think it was only in theaters for maybe 2 weeks before it was booted for the most part. So I mean that's pretty hardcore. I give it credit for that. The second one, very memeable. Other than that, it just kind of serves as a last time on Silent Night, Deadly Night. Uses just mostly footage from the original. So everything after that is like the schlockiest, like the absolute worst. Um, what are you saying, Billy? You should take into account how good the Ice Nine Kills song is. I can't do that though. That's breaking the rule that the only thing that goes into account is every film in the franchise. And I kind of question one rule because soon we're going to get into like TV show spinoffs. Do I take those into account? I think maybe it's going to be on a case by case basis because some of them are um, very loosely based. Let's just say that. I think overall, Silent Night, Deadly Night is going to have to, even given how cool the origin of the franchise is and how memeable the second one is, there's at least 3 or 4 more that are total garbage and aren't redeemable in any shape, way, form, or fashion. So, yeah, I'll give it an E, and I think that's being generous. I think that's being extremely generous. I love the first Silent Night, Deadly Night as a kid. Yeah, you know what's fucked up is the fact that, and I can say this too, so I'm not calling you out or anything. I think it's kind of fucked up that we can say we watched this film as a kid. Watching it now, honestly, looking back on that, they used to kind of just let us do whatever the fuck it at a certain point in our lives. So this, I think this is the first one that may piss people off. I'm assuming that there are fans of the Resident Evil films. I cannot say that I am, and I can also say that I've never seen a single one of them. Never really appealed to me, and I just got to be honest and throw that one in the don't know, don't remember, because I've only seen clips of random scenes throughout the franchise, and trailers included, things of that nature. But the clips, trailers, whatever that I saw, never really, never really got me off my ass to go to a theater. So the games are great, movies are trash. Yeah, the games are really fun. I've played a handful of them, and they're generally speaking pretty good. But my understanding is that there are within the film universe or whatever the fuck you want to call it. It seems to be kind of split with people who think they're amazing and people who think they're total garbage. And I don't see a whole lot of gray area, generally speaking. But they just, and the more they make, the more it's just like, I definitely don't want to start watching them now. Just because, oh man, if it's bad, I'm gonna want to try to see it through to the end. and I'm gonna have to suffer, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, just being totally forthcoming there. That's got to go and don't know. So we have The Fly next. So I guess we have to take into consideration the original Fly, the Jeff Goldblum remake, and I guess that's it. No, they did make a Fly too, didn't they? And I can't really say that I'm familiar with that one, to be perfectly honest. Uh, Obviously, the Jeff Goldblum Fly is fucking amazing. The original, a classic, sure, but not really my cup of tea, so to speak. Can't say I'm familiar with the sequel to the Goldblum film. I'm assuming he wasn't in it. So it seems to me I think it'd be fair to at least put it on par with how I rank the Thing franchise, given what they both have going for them and against them. Let's see here. What do we have? Candyman next. Okay, so I'm probably going to be pretty generous. I do like this franchise. The original, fucking Chef's Kiss, amazing. Even the original sequel I thought was pretty good. The third one, it was bad. Admittedly, I think it was actually made as like a Showtime film, like made for the channel Showtime. But they bounced back with the Nia DaCosta, Jordan Peele. I guess you call it a legacy sequel, whatever. That one's really good. So I think this one definitely has more good going for it. So I am gonna have to. I think I'll B tier this one. I think if it wasn't for the third one, maybe you could have made it A tier, but it's just so bad. Like I know the franchise overall, I think has a lot going for it, but that it's just bad. It's that bad. So what the fuck is this? Camp Blood? Can't say I'm familiar with that. Sounds like a Friday the 13th reference. But I don't know what Camp Blood is, so meh. You go there. All right. So we have The Howling now. The Howling. Man, I gotta tell you, I think I've only seen the first two, and I know there are more. Matter of fact, I think I think they're working on one currently. So based on what I know that there were more sequels than I've seen. My assumption is that they're going to be diminishing quality. But I do think that the original is just, it's super fucking solid, like a really good werewolf flick. The sequel, if memory serves, was a decent enough movie. I don't know. I think D tier's fair. The original one's really good, but based on what I've seen afterwards, like I said, the sequel seemed decent enough. But based on the little I've seen going forward, I don't know. Also, it takes a lot for me to be a fan of a werewolf flick. I think we're gonna look at one here soon in the list potentially that's gonna score high, but yeah, it's all right. It's meh. It's meh. All right, so The Human Centipede. Oh my fucking god, are you kidding me? I did not even notice that was on here. That's interesting. Okay, so I have an interesting story with this franchise, I guess. So I obviously heard about what this movie was. The marketing was pretty obvious as to what the fuck you were going to get. And so I didn't watch it in theaters. I honestly didn't want to go pay and look another person in the eyes and be like, yeah, I want to go watch that movie about people's mouths being sewn to assholes. but I did watch it when it came out for like Rent, if you remember that. So yeah, I actually, funny enough, I ended up going to a Blockbuster and telling them I want to rent the movie about the mouth buttholes. So whatever. But so yeah, I did watch that one. And I felt like I'd been kind of robbed of an hour and a half of my life, or however long it was. And then I remember they made a sequel, and I was like, yeah, there's no fucking way. And I think I actually ended up watching maybe the first 10 minutes of that before I was like, yeah, I was right. So this is my experience. My knowledge on this is that the original it's really not my thing. Yeah, there's 3 of them, right? I've seen 0% of the third one. It's I'm all for like B cheap, cheesy, whatever, campy horror, but it just I don't know. I just thought it was kind of stupid. Honestly, I didn't I didn't really see much. It didn't really scare me. It was just the premise is so fucking goofy on the face of it. Um and I didn't really find it all that humorous. So for me, there you go. Languish. F tier, bitch. Fuck out of here. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's I don't know. I was never really a big fan. I do recall there being like a cartoon show that was on when I was a kid as well, which is interesting that they were marketing that toward kids, but they tried a lot of weird shit to market to us in the 90s as far as TV shows. Like at one point there was a Clerks TV show that was like on for kids. So where we throw in this at, because I'll throw it up here with Silent Night, Deadly Night. I'll give it that much. It's just because I kind of really want to reserve F tier for movies that not just I think are bad or I don't like, but I just have a real fucking disdain for, like F tier. These are the movies that I would erase. If I could Thanos snap these movies out of existence, I'd do it. Okay, so next up we got Boogeyman. I know there's at least 3 of them. I've only seen the first one. It was Garbaggio. I assume 2 and 3 are Garbaggio. Get out of here. Friday the 13th. Where's Leprechaun? I'm pretty sure it's on here. Like I said, this was the most complete list I could find. Let's see. Yeah, we still got a good bit to go. Maybe I should kick it up a notch, folks. So what do we have? Friday the 13th. Okay. I mean, let's be real. It's at least C tier, not going below that. Too many fun movies in this franchise. Way more good than bad. So, and I just enjoy them. They're fucking good. This is my list. I like them. So I'm gonna file it right up there with B tier because I like it. Maybe add more letters. Yeah. Yeah, it's man, I don't know. I'm like struggling here. Like, yeah, I think I'm gonna make that bold choice there. I like it. A tier. All right. Yeah, it's iconic, right? Come on. It's good shit. Lake Placid. I didn't even know they made more than one of these. Wasn't this the one with the Betty White? Right? Lake Placid? So if that's it, then I don't know. It really wasn't my thing. I think I've maybe seen it once or twice. Didn't know there was more than one, but I didn't hate it. So there you go. We'll throw you in E tier. Yeah, like who cares, right? Betty White wasn't. There was 8 of them. You shitting me right now? Oh, Open Water. Wait, okay, so I'm gonna have to Google this one. I'm not even gonna lie. Which one was Open Water? Because I'm thinking about like Deep Blue Sea for some reason, and I'm so which one was Open Water? Okay. Um. Yeah, I'm gonna have to be honest on this one. Looking at the screenshots, I don't think I've seen it. Don't think I've seen it. I'll have to add it to the list here. What is it? What do we have here? 2003. Survival horror. Maybe that's why I haven't seen it. It's not really my thing, but I'll check it out. That genuinely makes me mad. Wait. What makes you mad? Open Water? Is that the one that pissed you off? Shark movie with the couple stuck in the water. Yeah, I checked out a couple of clips. it looks familiar. I think I've seen just that, some clips, but I'm 100% sure I've never seen that entire movie. So up next, Scanners. And I'll be honest with you. I don't think I've ever seen any of the Scanners except for the original. I'm not, for some reason my brain's not telling me anything after the original. Like obviously, you remember the iconic head explosion. But I can't really say that I've seen any sequels to this to take into consideration, or remakes or what have you, for this to be considered a franchise. I'm only really familiar with the first one. But I'll be generous because I do like Scanners. Like, I think that's a really good one. I'll be generous and just throw it up in D tier here. I think the first one's pretty solid enough to me to make that judgment, but I think I hope I don't watch a string of shitty sequels and regret doing that, but I think the first one's pretty solid. What do we have here? So Evil Dead. All right, let's just come with me, buddy. Evil Dead's A tier. It's at least A tier, right? Right? So let's think about this. So like you got the first one, more of a serious tone. Then you've got your sequel. It's just where it gets a bit silly, but probably the best one. You've got Army of Darkness. You've got that the 2013 movie and the one that came out this year. There's honestly, I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. Um. Man, I don't know. I don't know about this one. Yeah, I think we go S tier. I think Evil Dead's going to be S tier. Like, I don't think there's a single bad one. Like with Friday, they're generally fun movies, but there's at least 2 of them that are pretty bad, right? Evil Dead, I don't think that's the case. Yeah, I think we have our first S tier. So who do we got next? Who do we got next? Terror Tunes. I have no idea what the fuck that is. That's going to Dono. Scary movie. Okay, so the original is I like. It's a spoof on Scream. Love Scream, but it's good. The second one I remember being pretty funny. After that, it just yeah, it got bad. And there's a lot more of those, aren't there? Like there's a lot of these now. And I've seen I know I've seen some of them in their entirety, like after the first two, and then I've seen pieces of some of the other ones. But honestly, I definitely can't see it being anything better than D. I don't know. I may actually move that down to E. I don't even know if the first two, I mean, like maybe the first one. Maybe the first one. There's a couple of decent moments in the sequel. Yeah, fuck it. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there at least for the early entries that were okay, maybe. Now there's a lot of bad sequels. We're gonna move that down. Wishmaster. First one's good. I think there's like 4 of these actually. And definitely diminishing quality with these, I recall. I think the first two were the first one I really enjoyed. Remember the second was okay. After that, it kind of gets fuzzy because it's just forgettable and bad. So I don't know. I think D tier is fair with that. It's literally like a 50-50 type franchise. First two good, last two not so good. So I don't know. I think that's fairly easy there. Never seen them? It's kind of like a genie type scenario, the djinn, as it were. Grant you wishes, but kind of fuck you over and kill you in the process. Very, very cool guy. So the Lost Boys. So here's one that I am not I'm not familiar with after the first, honestly. I've not seen any of the cheap or more expensively produced sequels that have come out variously over the years. I'm only familiar with the original. And I honestly, the first one's like, I think most people like it way more than I do, honestly. I think it's okay. I think it's a pretty decent vampire flick, but um, not really having a lot of knowledge after the first. And I don't know. I think the first was decent. So honestly, I think that puts it into the same category as like the Howling and Scanners, like I mentioned earlier. So we'll D tier it. I think the first one's pretty classic. But anything after that, I really don't have much of a knowledge of, honestly. Yeah, they made more than one. They did. There was at least, hold on, I'll pull it up. Like I know there was at least 2 more. If I'm not totally way off on this, there was at least 2 more. Let's see. All right, so you got me, Wikipedia. I appreciate you. All right, so you had the original in 1987. Then there was a sequel in 2008. Another sequel in 2010. And I thought they were gonna. I think they're I keep hearing they're working on things currently, but it's kind of like a developmental hell thing, from what I understand, or will probably never happen. So yeah, there were 3: 87, 2008, and 2010. So yeah, and they look pretty cheaply made from from what I'm seeing, here. So yeah, I think that's fair considering where I put like the Howling and Scanners. I think it's pretty fair to put the Lost Boys there as a franchise. Once again, remember, we're counting the entire franchise in each pick. Just want to make sure that's out there. I don't want a bunch of comments of people going, fuck you for where you put the Lost Boys. That's a great movie, Okay, Ginger Snaps. These movies are pretty solid, honestly. I'm pretty sure it's just a trilogy. That's definitely all I've seen is 3 films. But all of them are pretty solid. Uh, solid enough to where I think I'll throw this shit in C tier. Yeah, it's a pretty solid franchise overall. You know, not bad there, not bad. So thank you very much, me, for giving me $2. There is only one Lost Boys. The sequels are lies. Right? Like, yeah, I feel you there, man. I, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not like a huge Lost Boys fan, but I like the original enough to, I admit it's a classic. It's definitely a movie that people have continued to uphold and as a top vampire flick. So I got no quarrels with it. But yeah, like I said, I've never seen those other two, but holy shit. Yeah, they look like potential war crimes. So up next is Feast, and yes, I'm very familiar with this one. There was some type of show. Was it like Project Greenlight or some shit back in the day? And these college kids won, and they gave us Feast. Um, and man, what a fucking trilogy of films it was. Very, if you've seen it, it's just absurd, uber violent, over the top, crazy gore fest. Uh, just fucking just like Saw on meth, like that type of stuff. But I will say, unfamiliar with Feast. I give the first one a shot, and if you if you are intrigued to continue, there are two more. It is a trilogy, but I think honestly, uh, for me, these are movies that I really only watch them. I don't know, once every 5 to 10 years, but they are pretty solid. Overall, I think the entire trilogy is for what they are, which like I've said earlier, is campy, over the top, gory type horror. Um, I'd at least throw it in E tier. It's alright. I Spit on Your Grave. Jesus Christ, like we're gonna do some hardcore shit here. So once again, I am familiar with the original. I think it was made in the 70s. Um, and I'm familiar with the remake and one of the sequels from that remake. But let's see. What do we have here? It's this one's kind of like, you know, I I don't want to say I enjoy a certain aspect of these films, because anyone who's seen them knows one of the big aspects of each and every one of these films. But I will say that I do enjoy the get back, the comeuppance, as it were, that happens toward the middle and end of these films, which it's the antagonists in these movies definitely earn what happens to them. Um, but as a franchise overall, I don't really see putting this any higher than Feast and the various E tiers here. Just simply because, I mean, it's honestly it's I'm not one of these people that's gonna like say, movies like that shouldn't exist, but to be honest, there are some scenes in some of those movies that are little uncomfortable to watch. Uh, but it is what it is. Uh, what you would enjoy is a free Steam game. No, no, Lil Bill. I would 100% not enjoy any Steam game that you are offering me. No fucking way. No fucking way. Phantasm. I like Phantasm generally. The first one. I don't know. I have some issues with the sequel, and from then on, it's I think the franchise is hit or miss. A lot of times, it's a little reliant on nostalgia, but that's not always a bad thing. You know, if it's done effectively, if it's done well, I guess if it works into the narrative, uh, I don't know. I think Phantasm, hit or miss franchise, but I throw it in. I'll throw it in C tier. I'll throw it in C tier. I think I'm being pretty generous with that too, honestly. I think that's, you know, cuz some of those movies aren't some of those movies aren't really even pressing play on. But some of them are definitely worth a watch. I got a Steam game for Brand. I'll send it to Billy and he accepts. No, I don't want any of your fucking Steam games. I don't want a single one of them. Not even the first one. Nightmare on Elm Street. Let's not even fucking mince words here, folks. Because this one's going. Let's consider this here, okay? I'm going to let it rest in A tier. I'm going to let it rest here. This may not be where it stays permanently, but we're going to consider it. All right. So what we're considering here is that, once again, the entire franchise, folks, the whole thing, not just the original movie, everything. Okay. That being said, you've got the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven classic. You've got the sequel, debatable, but I enjoy it. The third one, obviously, I mean, hell, it may be better than the original. But then you've got a subpar Dream Master. You've got a pretty bad Dream Child. You've got a pretty damn bad Freddy's Dead. Bounces back really well with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And then what is it? Freddy versus Jason, and the remake with her P. Freddy. So honestly, as good as the highs are, as high as the highs are, the lows are just equally low. That being said, I think this one has more bad films in the franchise than good films. And I think I'm gonna let it rest in A tier a little bit longer. I think now that I actually sit down and think about it, my instinct was to go direct to S tier. But I mean, when I think about the Dream Child, Freddy's Dead, Jesus fucking Christ, like there, but I didn't even honestly like Dream Master. So there's like 3 in a row that I really wasn't a big fan of. So I think I'll drop it in A and I'll leave it there. Let's see. Who do we have next? Alien. All right. So honestly, Alien's gonna go. We're letting it rest in B tier while I make my mind up here, but it's definitely gonna be at least B tier. At least B tier. Love the original Aliens, the sequel. Really, I like 3. 4 was it Resurrection? Yeah, there's some issues there. Then it starts getting a little bit convoluted. You start you have to include the 2 AVP movies. You have to include the Covenant movies. You have to include what is it, like Prometheus, all this shit. It gets a bit convoluted after that, honestly. And it's I think it's fair to say that it's a franchise that definitely has some lows in it. But I think generally it's got more wins than losses, right? Let's throw it in A tier. I'm fine with that. There is only one bad one. So you've seen AVP Requiem, right? So you're already counting that one, right? I mean, because there are more to consider, like AVP. in and of itself. So I don't know, man. I don't know about just one bad one. I don't know. But yeah, I think A tier is fine for Alien. It's classic. It's good shit. The Blob. Man, I get it's a classic. Like what was the 50s Blob? There were so many remakes of this thing, and I know at one point in time, especially back in the day, they were making sequels and things of that nature. So I'm not totally aware of the entire franchise, I guess, as it were here. But honestly, meh, meh. The Omen. Um, uh, where do we go? C or D? Do we drop Omen in C or D? Because that's where I'm feeling it goes as a franchise. You got the original's good. I know there were 3 more after that, and then a reboot with Liev Schreiber, but I'll throw it in D. We'll throw it in D. Not super big on these, but they're okay every once in a while. Yeah, D for Damien. Yeah, that works. That works. Critters. Critters is fun. I think the third one was Leonardo DiCaprio's first movie. His film debut was like Critters fucking 3. Which is kind of interesting how many like huge stars got their starts in like incredibly low budget horror films. It's in a lot. Critters, you know, I don't know. I think maybe after the first or second one, it stops being like, like, all right, we get it. But you know, they're fun little movies. We'll throw them in the D tier here. They're fun little movies, but there's a lot. There's at least 4 of those fucking things, right? There's at least 4 of those. And I just don't know if all of them are as fun as the first. We'll say that. The Hitcher. Now I know there were sequels to the original that I haven't seen, but I've seen the original and I've seen the remake. I think the original is really the only one that I honestly would give a fuck to watch more than once. Personally. So there's a little baggage in this franchise for me, honestly. Never saw it. Yeah. Yeah, I like the first one. I don't know how many other ones there are. But like as a franchise, man, meh. Cloverfield. Now I like the Cloverfield franchise. I like it because every movie is different. But it's all kind of revolving around what is supposed to be a one general story. But every movie is so different. You've got like a found footage, monster flick. You've got like a psychological thriller. You've got a sci-fi film, a space sci-fi film, all in the same franchise. It's good. I like it. So for me, I would probably put Cloverfield. I really like the first one. I think the second one was the dude from Roseanne. Was he John Goodman? Was in. I'll fucking C tier Cloverfield. I like it. So far, so good. Children of the Corn. All right, now I can attest because I am a completist and I really like the original Children of the Corn. I think it's a pretty solid horror flick. And like I said, I'm a completist, but I went to a stage where I was much more of a completist. And I think I bought just about every one of these fucking movies before. And wow, don't. Because really, honestly, the first one is really the only one that's worth a shit. There's some moments here and there if you actually like the story that are kind of cool, right? Um, but there are so many of these. There's so many remakes. There's so many sequels. And the vast majority of them are ass. So once again, if we're looking at the entire franchise, I'm gonna have to E-tier this one too. Creep Show. I like Creep Show. The first one's amazing. I like the second one. Um, was there another one? I find myself like questioning. Was there another? Pretty sure my sister wanted to name her son Malachi because of the first one. Yeah. He who walks behind the rose. Fuck, Creep Show. Yeah, I wanted to see, was there a third Creep Show movie? Yeah, there was in 2006, apparently. A horror comedy. I am not familiar with that. Okay, was there a fourth Creep Show? No. Okay, so I know I've seen the first two. I really like the first two. I've never seen the third one. So I'll C-tier that shit. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Okay, so 3 movies. Really easy to figure this one out. The first one is a Scream clone. You know, when Scream was really hot. This was one of the first movies, I think, to kind of do being a Scream clone right. Kind of like Friday the 13th was with Halloween. The sequel, I don't know, it's fun if you like the story. The third one is the hottest of garbage. Kill it with fire. So I mean, as much as I enjoy the first one and even the second one to a lesser degree, the third one is so hot garbage that I think anything over D would be rude to the people that had to suffer through that third movie. Quite honestly. What are you waiting for, huh? Yeah, that one. That one. I was saying, okay, so you just saw these recently. Jesus, Frank. I keep forgetting that you were raised with an overprotective caregiver. You couldn't get to see these awesome horror movies. Shout out to my mom and dad who didn't give a fuck. I kid. Kinda. The Brotherhood. I don't believe I'm familiar with these. Let me do a Google, though. I want to make sure that I'm not lying here. But I'm pretty sure I've never seen these movies. The Brotherhood. Okay, so this was a franchise from, I guess, 2000 to 2010. Oh, I guess it's out of the UK. Not familiar. Gonna have to drop you here next to Terror Tunes, my guy. Don't know. If Brent says it's not good, I don't watch it. Yeah, because I'm overly nice to the horror genre. So if I say it's not good, it's probably not. So let's see, what do we have here next? The ABCs of Death. So I remember the first one very well. I think I've only seen bits and pieces of. I'm wanting to say there were 3 of them made in total, maybe more at this point. The first one uh, was kind of like, had the whole, each letter of the alphabet, and you have a title based on that letter, and it's a short, I don't know, a couple of minute short film. Each one, I think, was a different director. And it ranged from some pretty interesting stuff to just absurdity. But like I said, I'm not familiar with the other two. Uh, I know there was at least two more. But I enjoyed the first one enough. I'd throw it a D tier too. Hostel, I enjoyed. Um, I think we'll D tier. We'll D tier Hostel. We'll D tier it. Blade. I think I've only seen the first and third, but I liked them. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is kind of like the blending of horror and the superhero films. Let's see here. I'll throw it in D2. Shake, Rattle, and Roll. I have no idea what the fuck that is. Demons. Oh man, here's another one where there's just a lot of them. Blade wasn't a horror movie. Yeah, I didn't make this list. I didn't make it. That's why I kind of protested a little bit there. It's got horror elements for sure, just being a vampire in it in general, but yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying. I definitely get that. Is that the Brotherhood of the Wolf? Yeah, I don't know. I know it's some kind of UK horror film, which is apparently a franchise. I've never heard of any of them. Demons or Night of the Demons. Once again, that's another one that's just like there's so many bad sequels. So many bad sequels. I'm gonna have to E tier it. Amityville. All right. So it once again, you're taking into consideration the whole franchise, right? So it doesn't matter how good the first one was because there's like 42 of these now. And because of that, the first one can only do so much, honestly, right? I'll E tier it. I don't think I'm being nice because we're talking about the whole franchise. Cabin Fever. Jesus, the whole thing, man. Like the first one's decent, I guess, honestly. But I don't think I've seen anything after that was that was really worth watching in this franchise. And I know I've seen at least two sequels to the original and a remake for some reason that happened very close to the original coming out, like I think within 10 years or less. But I don't know. It's okay for what it's worth. I'll throw it up there with D tier. Yeah, there's 27 Amityville movies according to Wikipedia. I knew I was in the ballpark there. Yeah. Seriously, I guess that's just what happens when the rights just go to whoever the fuck wants it. I guess it's public domain or something akin to that. Evil Bong. Can't really say that I've seen anything after the original. Just you just kind of you got to watch the first one for the novelty of it. Meh. Anaconda. Really, who gives a shit after the first one, right? Like I know they made more, but who cares after the first one? Meh. All right, now maybe we can get into some good movies here. Looks like the coast is clear. We got rid of a lot of garbage there, honestly. Like, seriously, holy shit. I had to dump a lot of stuff there in D and E real quick, but I think we're going to move back up. All right, Final Destination. We're getting back to good stuff. So, boop. Whoa, don't kid yourself, big fella. Right back down there to C tier. Holy hell. Yeah, I enjoy these, but not that much. Yeah, good flicks, pretty solid. I mean, each movie is kind of the same thing, if we're being real, with just some tweaks around the edges. But it worked in the original. I think it works generally speaking. These movies are what they are. But I think overall it's a pretty sound franchise, pretty solid. You have a soft spot for Final Destination movies. Yeah, they kind of hit me in the nostalgia bug, honestly. Being kind of like an early 2000s franchise. So Fright Night, man, I got to tell you, once again, it's another case of me just not giving a shit after the first one. And I've seen a lot of this franchise. I know there's at least two or three more of these. But they're just really not all that interesting to me personally. And I'm just going to throw it in D overall. I think I'm being pretty nice about that. From Dusk Till Dawn, thoroughly enjoyed the first one, but let's be real, everything that's come after that, which I think this is a trilogy still at this point. The first one's amazing. The second and third are totally fucking forgettable. So I'll be nice. I'll be nice to put that in D tier just because I really like the first one. Ghoulies, I think I'm gonna have to do the exact same thing I did with Critters, but down one because Ghoulies are Critters ripoffs. Halloween. All right, so if we're talking about the entire franchise, this was the example I made earlier. Was that the original may be my favorite movie, of all time, but there are some pretty bad ones in there as well. So I have to take this into consideration. I will say, I'm not even going to bullshit. So we'll just go ahead and move this. I will say for sure, it is at least going to be in B tier. No lower than that. There's no way I'm going lower. We're going to let it rest here just because the original, like I said, favorite movie, favorite C, no fucking way. Absolutely not. That's what we're not going to do. See, Hillbilly Jump's thinking a little bit better there. A tier, at least A. Okay. So let's map it out here. The original classic, the sequel, amazing. The third one, debatable, but I enjoy it. Fourth, I enjoyed. The fifth was garbage. Sixth it's a fucking weird acid trip. Then you have H2O, decent enough. Resurrection, garbage. The two Rob Zombie movies, and then the new Blumhouse David Gordon Green trilogy. For me, really, there are only two movies I think in this franchise that I'm just like I could totally skip them, not fans of them. And there are at least 5 or 6 of these that are on any given day I could watch and I love them. So I think if I'm looking at it like that, the pros definitely outweigh the cons in general in the franchise. And given how much I enjoy those, boom, S tier, second S tier. I'm just gonna be honest. There's like 2 really bad ones, but other than that, pretty solid. There's a reason why they decided to remake it again and again. Yeah, money. It made money. Yes, Cult of the Thorn. Right. That's the acid trip I speak of. Man, a movie so insane they basically made it twice. 2 extremely different versions of that movie exist and are available anywhere you'd like to purchase it. It's pretty insane. The Silver Shamrock logo or the Silver Shamrock jingle is better than most of the sequels to these movies. I like that. I fucking love Halloween 3. I'm a person. I enjoyed Halloween 3 and Halloween Ends. The two that are more criticized for not being Halloween movies. I think they're two of the better ones. So moving on here, we have Tremors. Here's one. Just gonna be fully honest with you. After the first, I could give a fuck less. The first one is, I thought, pretty damn entertaining. But I after that, like, who cares? I'll throw them in D tier. Hellraiser. So this one's going to be interesting too, because man, there's a lot of bad ones. Like the first two or three are super good. And then there's just a slew of hit or miss that quickly devolves into just straight up miss. Although I did enjoy the most recent one that I think Hulu produced, that I had to buy a bootleg of because they just won't release physical copies of their films for some reason. But yeah, I think man, some high highs at the beginning and maybe even some more recently, but a lot of lows in the middle of this thing. There's so many bad ones, man. That's gonna hurt it. But geez, I can't put it below C, right? Like I don't know if I can. Ah, man, I don't know. There are so many bad ones. So many. Okay, I think it's only fair. It kind of hurts to drop it in C tier just because of the ones that I like so much, but man, I don't know. No one saw that. We're gonna keep moving. The Hills Have Eyes. Here's another one. Here's another one. The original's good. The sequel's garbage. The remakes, not really all that bad. And there's a sequel to that one that I'm not really interested in either. And that's kind of the entire franchise. If you don't include the quasi sequel, Mind Ripper, I think it was called. So just a 50-50 franchise on the whole, I guess. So we'll just we'll D tier it. Child's Play. So is it an S or is it an A? That's really the only question here, folks. Is it an S or is it an A? Because it's got to be one or the other. It absolutely has to be. There's no other option here. Do I S tier this? Do I A tier this? So let's look at the franchise. Let's take it into consideration here. The first one, classic. The second one I think's better than the first. The third obviously didn't really live up to the first two, but I kind of dig the third. Then you kind of go into the more comedy type with like Bride and Seed of Chucky. Back to a little bit more seriousness with Curse and Cult. And I guess you can even kind of consider the TV shows at that point because they're totally canon with the movies. And then there's the oddball remake from, I think, 2018 or 19, which, as good as Mark Hamill did at voicing Chucky, it's really, it doesn't help when you completely remove all the character from such a colorful character. But I think on the whole, for me, more hits than misses. Boop. There we go. Let's piss some people off. S-tiered Child's Play. All right. Insidious. Ah, man. I know they're making a new one. Like they're not making, they're about to release a new one, actually. And I don't know, man. I never really cared after the first one. I think I didn't really keep up too much with the franchise. But it was a lack of interest. It wasn't like I keep meaning to watch this and I forget type thing. It was honestly a lack of interest. So, other than the first one, I mean, I think the first one was decent, but it wasn't enough to bring me back to really want to watch any more of them. So I can't speak to the sequels. So I'll have to put most of my basis here in the original, obviously. I don't hate it. We'll D tier it. Jaws. Okay. We're going to start at C. I think I'm being pretty fair with that. The original, classic sequel, I think is kind of unnecessary, but whatever. The third's not very good. The fourth is totally fucking unwatchable. It is an actual abomination, a war crime, a sin against our Lord. Whatever you want to say, it's pretty bad. And I think that was the end of them. They haven't remade this one yet, so I think C is being pretty generous. Everyone's saying B, but once again, you have to take into consideration the entire franchise. You guys really think B? Have you seen Jaws: The Revenge? Have you seen Jaws 3? I don't know. B. Do we move it to B? So if I move it to B, here's what I'm saying. If I move Jaws to B, I am acknowledging that it is on par as a franchise with Hellraiser, Candyman, and The Exorcist. I can't accept that. I gotta move it back down here to C tier. Sorry, folks. I can't see it. Can't see it. Like I said, the first two, honestly, I think fine. I said earlier, I was talking about 50-50 franchises, and I put a lot of the 50-50 franchises down here in D tier. So I'm being nice to Bruce there. Jeepers Creepers. Holy shit. It is rigged. Of course it is. Oh god, there it is. The Jaws hate. I'll be honest with you, man. I don't think the first two were strong enough to salvage too much from the second two. Just me. Jeepers Creepers. Okay, the first one, I think the first one is super well done. Second is kind of just a stereotypical 2000s horror flick. The third is very confusing and not very good. And the fourth is an unwatchable abomination. That being said, I will throw this one. Right here in D tier. And I think it would have been higher had they done anything with that last one at all. Like if they had even put in like a half inch of try. All right, Joyride. Got to tell you, don't give too much of a fuck after the first one. Although I do enjoy the first one every once in a blue moon. Not too big on any of the sequels. I think there were at least 2 more of these, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, yeah, if you take the whole what about the director? Right. That's kind of another reason why I don't put it in C tier, if you want me to be honest with you. Like I can separate, art and artist or whatever, but yeah, I totally get that with him and his circumstances cuz I mean, dude's fucking awful. If you know the story about Victor Salva. Joyride, man, I got to say like as a franchise, I think I have seen the second one, actually. I think I have. It was, if I'm not mistaken, it was like a totally different story with totally different people. Yeah. Fuck, as a franchise, I gotta tell you, I don't think the first one was really strong enough to warrant a sequel to begin with. I don't hate it, but who cares, right? Ju-on. So basically, you're the original Grudge. Let me look these up. I'm gonna have to see how many of these I know that I've seen. Obviously, I know I've seen the first one, but I am not totally sure. I'll have to check this out here because, like I said, these kind of get intertwined for me at a certain point because there are if I'm not mistaken, there's a handful of them. Yeah, oh yeah, there's holy shit. Yeah, okay. There's a lot more that I'm familiar with, actually. I guess if you're counting, I guess we're not counting the Grudge films because I see The Ring here. So I'm assuming that there's probably going to be The Grudge elsewhere on this list. But okay, so there's at least I see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, there's a lot of these, and then there's like all kinds of different variations and all kinds of different like spin-offs and things of that nature that I'm just going down this list here, and I'm totally unfamiliar with most of them. Um, so yeah, I'll just go based on what I know. Really enjoyed the original. Um, the two sequels that I'm looking at here that I know for a fact that I've seen are decent enough, actually. So I don't have a problem throwing it up in I think C tier. I think C tier overall. I think I've seen uh from what I've seen, the majority of this is good. You know what? No, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. No. Okay, the more I'm looking at the this little Google search here, I've seen more of these than I thought. There are some pretty rough ones that are yeah, I think D may be a little bit more fair for what I'm looking at here, honestly. Um Unfortunately, I have to let me know Bran if puts Puppet Master at least B tier, because if he doesn't, I might have to go on Auntie Jesse's little line and complain. Oh man, are we coming up on it soon? Because I think I saw it on here. Oh man, let's see. So what do we have next? What do we have next? Wrong Turn. All right, so the first one's pretty cool. The second one's pretty decent. After that, I kind of fall off. I know they made at least 7 of these things before they did a reboot, and the reboot was hella good. Like I super enjoyed that. Surprised the hell out of me at that point in the franchise, honestly. But honestly, I'll D tier it. I think it's decent enough. I think there's a couple of good movies here, at least. At least I'd say 3 out of 7 that I'd actually watch. Reanimator, I actually really enjoy Reanimator. It's definitely not gonna be D tier, but I am gonna put C tier because I think that's pretty fair. Out of 3 flicks, 2 of them being uh, really well made and enjoyable. The third one has its flaws, but I think overall, yeah, C tier is pretty fair for that. Matter of fact, to the people who are mad at me about putting Jaws in C tier, I think Reanimator is a better franchise than Jaws overall. Overall. All right. So what do we have next here? Creature from the Black Lagoon. Once again, this is Jesus. Like, how many of these have been made? How many variations have been made over the years? I think I'm not really too like super big on this franchise. I know there's been there's like I said, there's so much media of it out there, but none of it's really been my cup of tea. So I'm just gonna straight eat that shit and move on. The Ring. Uh, Once again, I think I recall enjoying the first. I definitely enjoyed the first one. I recall watching the sequel originally and finding it somewhat enjoyable. I didn't see the newest one they made a couple of years back, but once again, I think I'd throw it in D tier. Return of the Living Dead. These are fun movies. They're pretty decent. But once again, after like the first couple, like it's chronic case of who gives a shit. I'd throw it in D. Cold Prey, I don't think I'm familiar with actually. This one I may have to look up. Let's see, Cold Prey. Because it doesn't sound familiar to me. Cold Prey. No, this is just some random ass Norwegian film. No wonder. Yeah, don't know. We're gonna throw that right there. Basket Case. I kind of actually enjoy Basket Case. Oh man, yeah, I know there's at least a trilogy. I know there's at least a trilogy of these. But I really did. They're fucking absurd, right? They're crazy. And I know I've at least seen 3 of these. Um, and they're just fucking silly movies, very campy, very corny. Um, I don't know. I think they're pretty interesting. I'll D tier them. I'll D tier Basket Case. Ginger Dead Man. I mean, other than the novelty of Gary Busey voicing a killer gingerbread man, what else do you really have here? And how quickly does that novelty wear off? If we're being real here, E tier only because I don't absolutely hate it. Carrie. Let's see. Let me backtrack this franchise at this point. Holy shit, right? So you have obviously the original 70s film. There was a sequel made, I think, in the 90s called The Rage. And then there was a remake, and then there was another remake about like 15 years apart. So the original's fine, solid movie. The sequel is balls. I don't really remember much about the first remake, which means, you know, let's be honest. And the one they made recently within the last like 5 or 10 years, I thought that was pretty solid, I guess. 50-50 franchise at that point, right? Uh, we'll throw it in D. Solid enough, I guess. Yeah, the Ice Nine Kill song's awesome. I'll give you that, but throw Carrie away. Yeah. So Pumpkinhead, this is another franchise. Once again, it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe this should have been a one and done. There's a couple of cool moments in the sequels, but diminishing quality, diminishing value, obviously. Um, Fuck me. I can't really, once again, I don't really care after the first one, and there's at least three more of these damn things. So the bad pulls down what is already not the most amazing concept in the world, but a pretty fun film. So as a franchise, I'm gonna have to E tier it because, like I said, I could care less after the first one. Ouija, fucking oh Jesus. I got to be real with you. I don't think I finished the first one. Didn't know there was anything else. Um, I cut it off. I didn't watch it. Couldn't hold my interest. I'm. Do I put it in don't know because I really didn't watch it and I haven't seen any of the sequels, or do I put it in an F because what I saw of it was so bad I decided not to? I don't know. I don't think I hate it, so we'll put it here. It's more just like 15 minutes couldn't hold my interest, so why would I bother? You know? So Mega Shark. I don't know what the fuck Mega Shark is. I'm just gonna drop that there and keep moving. Bunny Man, I don't know what the fuck that is. We're gonna drop that there and keep moving. Killjoy is a fucking low rent killer clown flick. I can't say that I've really seen all of them, but I have seen at least a handful of them that I recall. But honestly, I'll E tier it only because I don't hate it. Maniac Cop is actually kind of interesting. I can't say that all of them are good. I can't really say any of them are good. But some of them have some qualities. We'll say that. Overall, as a franchise, though, once again, we're looking at this as an entire franchise. I got to E tier that one too. They're really hitting me with a lot of crap here again. They're doing me dirty. Prom night. Fuck, man. Once again, who really cares after the first one? They had a shitty, I don't know, 3 sequels to this thing and a remake. None of which, I mean, I'm gonna E tier it and move on once again. I don't hate it. Night of the Living Dead. Okay, so this one's actually going to be a little higher. Okay, so we're gonna move up here. It's definitely going to be higher than that. It's going to be at least C tier. At least C tier. So you get Night of the Living Dead, fucking classic. Dawn of the Dead, fucking classic. Day of the Dead, classic. There's the one John Leguizamo one. I think it's Land of the Dead. It's a really good movie. And there's two more in this. Was it Survival of the Dead and Diary of the Dead? They're kind of forgettable, but they're not. I wouldn't say they're bad movies. They're just not very. They don't really. They definitely don't live up to their predecessors. Let's just say that. So at that point, honestly, that's like three really good movies, a solid movie, and two kind of, let's be honest, forgettable movies. I don't know. I think that's kind of grounds to move it up the ladder here. I drop it in B tier. I'll drop it in B. Which I'm glad because holy shit, like once again, I didn't make this list, right? Like I I didn't make any of this. Oh, Mega Shark is wild, huh? Yeah, I wish I could say that I'll mark it down, but I don't know. It doesn't it doesn't sound like something I'd be too interested in. Hey, Nerdy and Spicy. Sorry, just coming back over here to the chat. One Missed Call. They made a fucking franchise out of that garbage? Bro, I don't see anything. I saw the first one. I don't like it. It's garbage. We're putting it there. Paranormal Activity. So these are hit or miss for me too. I think honestly, they don't hold up very well. I think that I don't know that it's definitely a franchise that should probably be over. I think this franchise for me could have learned something from Blair Witch and kind of went with a less is more approach because when they do things that are trying to show stuff, it always looks so over the top and stupid or poorly made. I don't hate it. But I'll drop it E tier. Whatever. Slumber Party Massacre. These once again, I can't say that I know I've seen the sequel, the immediate sequel to it. I've seen the first one. I don't remember much about the sequel. It's been a long time since I've seen it. And I think they did some kind of sequel or reboot or something to that effect recently. But all I can really speak to is the original campy, corny type horror. It's got some fun moments in it, but if we're talking about a franchise, yeah, that's E tier at best. I think we're being generous there. So what that I didn't S tier what should I have S tiered? Because the S tier, look at that. That's hallowed grounds up there. Like it's pretty difficult to get up there. All right, what do we have left here? Because we're gonna have to speed up a little bit. Poltergeist. Honestly, other than the first two, who cares? I don't like how many are there? There was just a remake after that, right? Are there more? I'll D tier it. That's solid. Cube I like. Cube I like. Solid franchise. They're pretty good at upping the game each time. I think I'm gonna put Cube in. Yeah, that third one's not so good. I'll leave it in D. No, you know what? Fuck that. We're gonna move it up to C tier. I like Cube. Subspecies, I'm not the biggest fan of. Decent at best, I guess. I'll D tier them. I'll D tier them. The Purge. Here's another one where the novelty wears off pretty quickly. Kind of should have been a one and done because after I just haven't. I really enjoyed the first one, but I haven't really seen any reason for this franchise to continue since with every film that they make. I think I stopped watching 2 movies ago. So as good as the first one is, it kind of ruined it, the franchise in general, by just kind of overdoing it and so quickly too. Like, I'll go D. I think I'm being generous, but I really did like the first. Psycho. The first two were really good. The next two aren't. And then there was a Vince Vaughn remake that was super bad. So let's see. We'll move D. I'll put it C tier. I think the first one's such a classic. The second one's like a uh, really good sequel that doesn't really get enough credit. Um, so on the backs of Psycho and Psycho 2, we'll put it in C tier. Definitely on their backs because holy shit, that Vince Vaughn movie is bad. It's actual Satan. That's what it is. Forever Purge is good. I can't say that I made it there. Can't say that I made it there. I saw the original, the Ethan Hawke one. Um, and I know I've seen at least two more of those movies, but I really like the first one. So I think I probably did watch the original three, honestly, if I'm thinking about it. Because after the first one, I was like, wow, that's really good. And then you get the sequel. I watched that and I remember being like, wow, that was really meh. It was just the same thing, but not as good. And then once I watched the third one, I kind of felt like that way again. Like same thing as the sequel, but not as good as the sequel. So I just felt like diminishing returns. I was just gonna bail. Um, so help me if Rec gets put higher than the thing, I'm done. That will not happen. I can assure you that will not happen. Puppet Master. There we go. Someone mentioned Puppet Master earlier. I told you we'd get around to it. So here's the thing. There are some of these movies that I just are really guilty pleasures of mine. I really like them, despite them clearly not being the most well made or whatever. And then there are some of these movies that are just a total waste of time. So once again, we're taking the whole thing into consideration here. So I think overall, I'd put them I'd put them at least C tier, for the simple fact that um, it's a franchise that for for its flaws, it always reinvents itself, does something different, goes a different direction. It's unpredictable. It may not be the most well made. It may not may not be the most well written, but they are some pretty entertaining movies, generally speaking. I think there are some bad ones. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There are some bad ones that are just totally not worth your time. But it's for me like the whole the killer doll thing is totally hit or miss. It either gets it or it doesn't. So I like these enough. I like these well enough. Um, so up next we have the rec, the record, whatever people call this, um, found footage style films. Once again, and I know that I've seen the majority of these. I may have actually seen all of them. Um, I think they're all generally kind of entertaining, but at the same time, they also tend to bleed together. I don't think really one film stands out too much, other than maybe the first one, obviously for obvious reasons. But generally speaking, they seem pretty fun. So we will D tier them, and you can rest easy, Wilson, because the thing is still C tier. The whole franchise, man. You know. All right, so up next we have Saw, and fuck it, I like Saw. I do. I like the majority of these. The Blob franchise is on the list because the '80s remake is at least at a B. Yeah, that's the thing though, man. There's so many of those from the '50s that you have to take considerations that were just absolute garbage. Like, but honestly, if there's any Blob movie I give a shit to watch, yeah, you're right. Um, so let's see here. What are we at? Saw. Yeah, I like Saw. I'll say that. I enjoyed the first several Saw films, honestly. I'd say that it definitely has more hits than misses, in my opinion. Let's see. How high are we gonna go here? Gonna move you up to D or move you up to C? B? B? I don't know. B? That sounds pretty fair. I don't know, man. I like them. I like them. Maybe we keep going. Maybe we A tier. Maybe we A tier. Yoink. I did it. All right. So up next is Scream. There you go. And we're done with that. Instant fucking S tier. No questions asked. There's not a bad one in the bunch. I'll not be taking any comments or questions. All right. So Sharknado is next. I don't think I've ever completed an entire Sharknado. I have seen a lot of pieces of these movies. They are trying to be like they're failing at trying to be the campy, like it's too intense. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me, and I just don't like it. F tier. Fuck them. Silence of the Lambs. Holy shit. Yeah, this is gonna go high because there are a lot of good installments. At least a C tier right off the bat. Sharknado is ass. Fight me. Oh yeah, fuck Sharknado. It's I don't know. It's just like it's trying too hard to be that campy, like horror sci-fi movie, and it just doesn't work for me. It just comes off like it's just trying too hard. I don't know. It just whatever it is, something doesn't click with me. It's not my cup of tea. Silence of the Lambs franchise. So what are we talking? Manhunter, obviously Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, Hannibal, Hannibal Rising, which is pretty bad. All those other movies are good though. The three seasons of the TV show, all solid. Fuck. Do I A tier it? Like I don't know. You know, I think I'll leave it at a B tier because Hannibal Rising. I think that film just prevents that from me putting it in the A tier. Honestly, you say A tier? You say A tier? Yeah, man, I like them. I like them. I really do. Like Silence of the Lambs is fucking amazing. I like Manhunter and the remake Red Dragon. I don't know. You may have a point. Yeah, fuck it. I'll A tier it. It's got more hits than one. It's really honestly one bad movie, right? Sleepaway Camp. Okay, first one's fucking legendary, especially amongst the horror community. No, I've seen the original sequel. I've seen the third film in the franchise. I've even seen what exists of a fourth film. They never were able to financially complete filming of the fourth film. And there was another one, I think, that Netflix. I don't know if Netflix made it or if it was just one of those early movies I remember seeing on Netflix back when they first started streaming. So I think I don't know. I think it's safe to say that this one's, the first one is super memorable for obvious reasons. But really after that, I mean, I guess if you're just looking for like a fun slasher kills movie, they're pretty enjoyable. Um, I'll D tier them. I'll D tier it. Why not, right? They're pretty interesting little films. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, so let's be real here. We're at least gonna be D tier in it, right? Nah, fuck that. At least C tier, right? Let's think about this. The original, amazing. The original sequel, amazing. Then there's a couple of bad ones, but I kind of enjoy. To totally admit they're bad, but guilty pleasure, whatever the fuck you want to call it. A good remake. Um, a decent follow up to that. I think it was like a prequel. And then there's another couple of bad ones with the whole "do your thing" cuz. And then there was a kind of another bad prequel. I don't know. The latest one was enjoyable, even though a lot of people seem to disagree with that. Um, you know what? Leaving it behind Hellraiser. Um, I'm really thinking this out here. I gotta move it up. I gotta move it up to B. I think there's just too many good ones that I enjoy, like the original, the sequel to the original, the 2003 remake, even the latest one, which I think is just like a really fun Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Um, so yeah, I'll B tier it. I think it was good. Good stuff. Even that Renee Zellweger one with Matthew McConaughey in it, that's a fucking riot. You can't tell me that's not entertainment. Blair Witch Project. Okay, so the first one of my favorite films of all time. The second one, uh, man, it turned out bad. It's like a classic case of studio interference. And it's as my wife walks by and says trash. It's not trash. Fuck out of here. But yeah, Blair Witch Project. So the first one, fucking fantastic. The second one could have been good without studio involvement. I think that's kind of generally what killed that film. There's a big story about how they didn't want the film to unfold the way the director wanted it to unfold, and it kind of ruined everything about the movie and gave away a lot of what was supposed to be a twist ending. There's just a lot going on with this one. It's kind of what a what might have been scenario with the sequel, but what we got was fucking bad, like straight up bad. And I think what was it, 2016? They did some sort of a sequel to this as well that actually ended up being a pretty good movie. I mean, I think it was. I don't remember the how the. I don't remember. I think that's all. Yeah, I think that's all we've got as far as the films. Like, there's so much more like this franchise that I think as far as like books and video games and things of that nature. But as far as films, those are the three we got. So as much as I enjoy the first one, the games are fun. At least the ones I've played were. I enjoyed the first one. I can find enjoyment in the second one because I kind of know what it was supposed to be, if that makes sense. And I think the third one is decent enough. So for me, let's piss some people off and throw it up in C. And while no one's looking, in B, and we go back down here. Yeah, I'll leave it in B. I'm not going to go any higher than, I know. As much as I love these movies, I think, honestly, yeah, B's cool. B's cool. Predator. All right. So here we have. First one's amazing. Second one, I don't give a shit what people say. The Danny Glover one's amazing too. After that, what is it? The next time we see AVP, then AVP Requiem, both garbage. And then we get a slew of like Predators, The Predator, and Prey. So yeah, there's definitely some stinkers on here. But let's see here. I'm gonna put Predator. I'm trying to be nice about it because I really do have a soft spot for a lot of these movies. Like, but there are some that are just total fucking garbage. Wife gonna hit, dude. She fucking hates those movies. Blair Witch says. Predator. You know what? I think I'm being nice here. But I think overall, C tier. And you have to take in consideration for all the Arnolds and the Glovers that you have. You also have like Brody's, like that Adrian Brody Predator movie. So I think I'm being pretty fair here because once again, high highs and low lows in this franchise. If we're being honest. The Woman in Black. I don't think I'm familiar. Troll. Yeah, they're bad. They're just bad. Um, but memeable. I'll put them in E only because of the memes they've helped to create. Urban Legend. I thought the first one was pretty interesting. The second one was barely serviceable. And if I'm not mistaken, they did one more that was total garbage. So I, I think D's cool. Underworld. Uh, Not a fan. Sorry, not a fan. Hatchet. For Hatchet, bro, honestly, the more I think about it, like, yeah, granted, I think each movie is kind of the same shit. Not even really all that tweaked around the edges. Like, it's kind of all the same shit. But at the same time, they're all pretty good. I mean, yeah, it may generally be the same shit every time in more of a way than normal, but they're pretty good. C tier. It. Okay, so I've got my preferences in this franchise. I prefer um I prefer the original if if you're looking at it from the standpoint of the original was a two-parter spread up made for TV type thing in the original or and then the ones we got recently were, you got this one and the sequel I think 2 years apart. So looking at it that way, I think I prefer the original first part and the remake second part. So kind of 50-50 for me. But honestly, I really don't hate anything that this franchise has brought to the screen so far. I've kind of enjoyed everything, generally speaking. Like I said, I have my preferences. But uh B or C here. Kind of struggling with this one. You know what? I think B is fine. I think we've had some pretty good performances from Skarsgård and from Tim Curry. So yeah, all in all, I don't think this. It's one of these franchises I don't think has really flopped all that much. New and old, love them both, huh? Old was scarier, but also long. Yeah, that is one thing to consider. That those were made for TV, released over like what several days or weeks or whatever. So Leprechaun. Okay, so here's one that like kind of interestingly enough, they did this thing where it was they were pretty smart about it. Like after like the first two or three, they were like honestly after the I guess after the first two, they made some questionable decisions on a franchise that was already questionable to begin with. And they ended up bouncing back with some once again stuff like Leprechaun in the Hood that I mean not good movies, but pretty funny. So yeah, this one's a mixed bag. None of them should really be taken all that seriously, if we're being honest. But some of them are kind of entertaining, depending on what kind of mood you're in. Um, we'll D tier it. VHS, I really like. VHS is going to be moving at least C tier, I think. Um, what up, Jake? Yeah, I don't know, man. I think at least C tier for VHS. I'm a sucker for a good anthology film. Um, and I think VHS has done it better than a lot have. Like I said, they're still making I haven't actually seen the newest one. But the four that I have seen, aside from maybe two or three uh sections of these movies, because like I said, they are anthology pieces. Uh Thumbs up. Nothing really bad about them, honestly. Um, once again, I struggle to. I know VHS. The third one I think was VHS Viral. That one was a bit of a letdown. But other than that, not a bad franchise. I think C is fair though. I think it's fair. The Conjuring, fuck you. F F. I wish there was I wish there was something more degrading and demeaning I could give you. Fuck The Conjuring. These movies are garbaggio. They are based on con artists. They are not well made. I don't care what anyone says. Um, obviously have your opinion. I'm not going to attack you for that, but as far as mine goes, fuck this whole franchise, every single one of them, all the spin-offs. Fuck them. They're awful. So Zombieland's good shit. Like honestly, it's let's move that up the list here a bit. That's at least going to be C tier, right? C tier. Yeah. I'm struggling. I'm struggling. The sequel was pretty damn good. I don't want, I think it's a big shot to say it's not as good as the original. That rarely happens, right? I think C is fair for Zombieland. You say B? I'm Yeah, I'm gonna stay C. I'm gonna stay C. This I am not sure what this is. If anybody knows what this is, let me know. Um, but until then, I'm gonna move it into the don't know. Silent Hill. Much like Resident Evil, I have not seen the Silent Hills films either. I don't know what it was about that video game to film crossover that kept me from seeing, but I cannot rank these. I cannot give a judgment call. I've never seen them. Gremlins, once again, fun little flick. I said earlier that the Ghoulies were like the ripoff critters, but it's really the Gremlins. They really ripped off the Gremlins, I guess, more. I think D tier's fine with this one. The first one's a fun little flick, but after that, you got definitely returning, diminishing returns there, as it were. Yeah, I'm fine D tiering this one. It's a classic, yeah, it is. But were there any more besides the second one? Because I may be a little bit more generous if it's just those two. I just kind of assumed there were. Gremlins. Franchise, fucker. I want the whole thing. Okay, so did they make any sequels beyond the second one? That's what I want to know. Gremlins 2, the new batch. Was that it? Were there no more? Because for some reason I thought that there were like there was another one that was. Hold on. Was there a fucking Gremlins 3? Okay, so there was something. What was this? Okay, so apparently it never happened. Okay, so yeah, no Gremlins 3. All right, cool. You know what? Maybe I'll be a little bit more generous to Gremlins then. Maybe I could be a little bit more generous. Can we move it up? I don't know. I'll leave those guys there. I'll leave those guys there. House on Haunted Hill, man. I'm just gonna be honest with you, man. Other than the Vincent Price one, I don't give two shits. So, and I'm not even a huge fan of that one, if I'm being honest. So, we'll E tier it. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Pretty solid franchise, honestly. Like, it's pretty much mostly remakes that I'm aware of. This one, like, I think this is one of those movies that's just been remade over and over and over again. But I like it enough. Well, I'll D tier it. I'll D tier it. Jack Frost, not the very interesting choice to make a killer snowman movie and a Kid Snowman movie, the same exact title. Yeah, I'm being Mandela affected over here, Frank. What the fuck? I thought there was a Gremlins 3 too, but apparently no. Jack Frost. Yeah, these movies are silly, but the novelty wears off fairly quickly. E tier. Jurassic Park. See, this is one that I mentioned earlier. Like, yeah, it's kind of horror. Um, okay, so I mean, we'll go with it. You know, it is about dinosaurs eating people. That's pretty horrific, I'd say. Obviously, the first one's fantastic. I can't say that I was really a fan of the sequel or the third one, which I think they were in like New York or some shit. I don't know. The Jurassic World movies, once again, I like the first one, but I really didn't care too much about the two subsequent ones. So I mean, it's fucking Jurassic Park, but at the same time, and I'll throw it in C tier. There's some fucking stinkers in there, man. Let's not pretend like there aren't. Dragging the good name of Jurassic Park down. Okay, so we got Piranha, and here's another. Once again, like other than the Roger Corman Piranha, I don't care. I really don't. We're gonna E tier it because I know they remade it and they made a sequel and then they made another one, another sequel to that remake, and so on and so forth. So we got Thanksgiving next. There are two of these, part 1 and part 3. Yes, you heard me right. They're fucking ridiculous. They're ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That's really the only thing you can say about them because that's really the only point that they convey is that it's ridiculous. I don't hate it, so we'll E tier it. Jesus. Okay, now we're getting down to the nitty gritty finally. All right, My Bloody Valentine. What are we doing here with this one? Blair Witch. Yeah. I don't know what your vendetta is. I'm gonna make you stand in a corner here in a minute. If you get that reference. My Bloody Valentine. Hey, you know what? These are solid. There was the original was good. The remake was solid. We'll move that up here. We'll move that up there. D tier maybe. We'll C tier it. We'll C tier it. I like those. Those are pretty good. The Descent. Okay, so the first one's really good, but I don't buy the premise of the second one a single bit. You're telling me that someone who actually escaped that nightmare fucking scenario is going to go back in? I think Aliens did a better job of convincing me of that scenario than The Descent 2 did. So I'll say I don't really buy the premise a lot. I don't know, my suspension of disbelief kind of hits a speed bump there, but overall I think they're both pretty good movies. The first one's definitely good. So I'll C tier Descent too. There's only two of them. First one's super good. The second one's all right, I guess. Sharktopus, what the fuck is that? Never seen it. The Mummy. See, this one's kind of weird to think about as a horror movie, even though like its origins are in horror, like Universal movie monsters and whatnot. Even though I think most people are, these days are probably more quick to think about the Brendan Fraser films. So I don't know. The Mummy's always been kind of meh for me, no matter how you put it. We'll E tier that. Happy Death Day. So far so good on this franchise. I mean, the second one's a bit different, but kind of kudos to them for not doing the same thing over and over and over again. I'll C tier that one too. Brand, you don't want to watch Jurassic Park 37, Attack of the Mega Dinosaurs? No, I don't. I don't know, man. It's fucking Jurassic Park has done the same thing over two generations, in my opinion. Given us a really good film and followed it up with two really bad ones. See, why are they putting action films in? Quarantine. I like Quarantine. It's basically the American version of Wreck, as we mentioned earlier. Which I think I'll probably put them in the same tier here in D. Sinister, once again, you know, the original, I think Ethan Hawke was in that one too. The original is pretty good, but once again, who cares after the first one? On the strength of the first one alone, I'll D tier it. The Strangers, the first one's really good. The second one is not as good, but it's got some pretty memorable scenes and stuff in it. I'll D tier that too. Black Christmas. Here's one that's going to be kind of decent, or this was going to be a little difficult to suss out here. Okay, so first off, the first one's really good. They remade it, the 2006 one. It's okay, it's decent. And I think they made another one in like 2019 that wasn't very good. So it's just another case of diminishing returns. I think off the back of how good the first one was and how okay the first remake was, I think we can at least put it at D tier as well. Although I think that last one really fucking hurts it. 2019 is ass. It's bad. It's a waste to Cary Elwes's time. Pet Cemetery. Okay, so I really like the first one. I even have a guilty pleasure for that second one. And I really didn't even mind the remake that bad. I thought it was pretty well done as far as remakes go. So you know what? I'll C tier there. Ghostbusters, I guess comedy horror, although way more reliant on the comedy. So yeah, let's talk Ghostbusters. All right, the first one I enjoy. The second one is all right. The 2016 Ghostbusters was the female one. Wasn't really a big fan of that one. Didn't hate it, but didn't really do much for me. And I've not even seen the newest one. I know they're working on another one already, but I've not even seen the newest one released. So I think off the backs of the first two, at least. Like I said, I know the yeah, I think C's fair here. I do. Once again, we're talking the entire franchise here. You can't just the remake was okay. Eh, eh. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. It was just very meh. All right, so for some reason they put AVP as its own franchise in here, which I think is a fucking mistake because that shit is hot fucking garbage. Throw it an F. Both of them. Absolute garbage. The first one is bad. Requiem is the worst thing to ever happen in cinema. A Haunted House. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is like a comedy horror deal. I can't say I've watched it. Raz, no idea what the fuck that is. 47 meters down. I'm aware of it, but I have not seen it. Did not even know it was a franchise. Unfriended, meh. We'll E tier it. Frankenstein, get the fuck out of here. Come on. It's classic. We gotta move it on up here. There's been a couple of good Frankenstein flicks. I got no problem B tier and Frankenstein just off Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein alone. Like I got no problem. I think we can leave it there. You liked AVP, Jake? Man, I'm glad someone found enjoyment out of that. Goosebumps. So I assume they're talking about the Jack Black Goosebumps. I haven't seen the second one, but I thought the first one was, decent enough. Fun kids horror flick, whatever. I mean, I generally liked all the TV episodes back in the day. Yeah, we'll fucking we'll D tier it. The Dentist, I think I saw this movie as a kid. I don't remember too much about it other than the weird face of the fuck they picked to play him, the title character. The Shining, there's two films in this franchise, and they're both fucking amazing. So let's work our way up the list here. S tier. That's pretty open and shut. Shining and Doctor Sleep are amazing. All right, 28 Days Later. Um, I like the zombies in these movies. They're pretty solid. I'd love to see a third one. I'll C tier it. I will C tier there. All right. Dracula. Oh man, there's a lot of these. Um, I've seen a good amount of Dracula flicks. I think a safe middle ground is C tier. There's some bad ones. There's some good ones. House of Dark Shadows. I am not familiar with. Birdemic. I don't hate Birdemic because it's kind of funny how bad it is. So we'll E tier it. I didn't know it was a franchise. Bikini Bloodbath. I'm not familiar with. House of a Thousand Corpses. So that would be House of a Thousand Corpses. Obviously, that would be The Devil's Rejects and Three from Hell. Three from Hell's garbage. But Devil's Rejects is probably Rob Zombie's best movie, and House of a Thousand Corpses is pretty solid too. So based on the strength of those first two, I'll C tier it. Man, if that third one wasn't so bad, I could see throwing it up to B tier, but holy fuck. Wolf Creek, not a fan. I don't hate it, but not a fan. We're E-tiering it. The Boy. See, this is a classic case right here. The first one, surprisingly good. The second one, surprisingly bad. So I think I'll just I'll throw it in D tier. Creep. You know, I don't think I know enough about these movies to make a judgment call, honestly. Malevolence, same. I don't think I know enough about to make a judgment call. Grizzly, once again, I thought Grizzly was a one and done. I didn't know they made more than one Grizzly. But I'll E tier based on what I know. The Babysitter. Okay, so Babysitter is actually pretty fun, and I know they've made two of these, and they're actually pretty fun. Let's see here. I think I'll C tier them. They're pretty fun. Well, shit. No, wait a minute. They made a really bad one too. Are there three, or am I thinking of something different? I'll settle for D on that one. Hollow Man. Man, I don't really give a fuck. We'll E tier it. It's not unwatchable, but See No Evil. This is the one with Kane from WWE. So the first one I thought was well enough. The second one it's it's a sequel. So I don't know. I think we'll D tier that one too. Grave Encounters. I think that's another D tier, honestly. There's two of them. They're decent. I think they're both about the same effectiveness, honestly. Dead Snow. Yeah, once again, didn't even know this one had a sequel. I'm somewhat aware of the the first film, so I can't speak to that one. Salem's Lot. Okay, so I know we have. I'm really only aware of the original. I know there was a sequel. I don't believe I've ever seen the sequel, at least in its entirety. The first one's really effective, though. I think you could easily, as an entire franchise, give it at least a D. Witchboard, once again, not familiar with that. I don't know who made this list. Once again, it seemed to be the most complete, but they put some really fucking obscure, random ass shit on here as well. So Don't Breathe. It's a movie I'm interested in seeing, but I have not seen. What are there, two of these now? So yeah, it's on the to watch list. House is E, and I'm being nice. Messengers, E. It's just not really my cup of tea, honestly. Let's continue on here because it's taking way longer than I thought it would. What a fucking list. The Stepfather. Okay, those are solid movies. Those are pretty solid. I'd at least give those a D tier overall in the franchise. Like I said, I think there's like 3 or 4 at this point. Fucking Chud. Yeah. We'll E tier Chud. Necromantic, not familiar. The Prophecy. Those are those fucking Okay, so yeah, I did know they made more than one of those. Once again, I don't think I'm familiar enough to make a judgment call on them. Darkman. Same, honestly. Toxic Avenger. Okay, so here this one's kind of interesting because there's been a lot of them that I know I haven't seen, but I did kind of enjoy the corny campiness of the ones that I have seen. So I D tier them. Waxwork. This is one that I've been meaning to watch for a while. I didn't know it was a franchise, but we'll check it out. Same for Contracted. Crumb Skull. Okay, these are pretty good. These are like some really good modern slashers. There's 2 of them, to my knowledge, that went under the radar, and I'm gonna at least C tier them. Extra. We'll D tier them. They're all right. Invisible Man. Okay, yeah, these are for me. These are hit or miss too. They're generally speaking done a bit differently every time they do one. We still cool? No, we are not still cool. Fuck Invisible Man. Like, yeah, you know what? I'll just E tier it and move on. No, I'll throw it up to the D. I'll throw it up to D. I think that's fair. It's kind of an off the walls franchise. It's kind of all over the place. It's kind of random for me anyway. Tales from the Hood. Like I said, I do love a good anthology. We'll D tier it. We'll D tier it. And the last one on our list here, A Quiet Place. So I have not seen the second one. I have seen the first one. I did rather enjoy that one actually. So once again, based on what I know and based on what I've seen from the second one, I think it'd be I don't really have a problem throwing it into the D tier there. So there it is. It's one hell of a list. It could have definitely been shorter than that because as you can see here, there's a whole lot that I'm unfamiliar with that I noticed a lot of people in the chat were unfamiliar with some of the same ones as well. So yeah, I guess that kind of rounds everything out. It's a beautiful S tier though, isn't it? Super beautiful S tier. You got Evil Dead, Halloween, Child's Play, Saw, Scream, and The Shining. In A, we got Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Alien, and Silence of the Lambs. B tier, Exorcist, Candyman, Hellraiser, Night of the Living Dead, Texas Chainsaw, Blair Witch, It, and Frankenstein. And a pretty solid C tier too. I'm not going to go through all the rest of them, but yeah, I don't know. It works for me. So if you haven't already harangued me in the chat for whatever decision I made, if you weren't here for the stream, you're watching this later on in the future, feel free to leave a comment telling me how wrong I am. And, I'll tell you how wrong you are in return. And yeah, as always, on the way out, thanks for joining me, everyone, for the live stream. Like I said, I don't stream a whole lot on this channel, so it's kind of fun to do every once in a while. And yeah, YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And yeah, we'll catch you all next time.